welcome to this video. Myself Dr. Nitshar Dasgupta. So this is basically a series of videos which I'm preparing for the software Mega. Now in the first video we had shown how to download and install the software Mega, and in the second one I had shown how to perform the multiple sequence alignment, and in another video I have shown what is the difference between the two algorithms which are most commonly used for performing this multiple sequence alignment, that is Cluster W and Muscle. So how much different how much does that make a difference to the multiple sequence alignment, ultimately alignment, and in which condition which particular algorithm should be used. So the links should be available here, so you can if you are interested, you can go and visit in there. So in today's video what we are going to discuss about is, or rather I would like to show all of you, is how to create the phylogenetic tree using those multiple sequence alignment data. So there are multiple different phylogenetic trees. Now again, which phylogenetic tree you have to prepare or you will be preparing, that will depend on the goal of your study. That is, whether you want to go for evolutionary study, whether you want to go for genetic diversity study. So there are, based on the goal of your study or your work, you have to find out, or you have to select which particular tree you are going to prepare. So let's move to the practical purpose or practical segment. So in this file I have selected a few data, a few files, actually few protein sequences. Now each of them, they are belong to one particular protein family, but they are from different species. Okay, so now the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to open Mega. Okay, so once we have opened Mega, the same way how so basically here I have not created anything. We will be starting from scratch. So we will be first dealing with the data, cleaning with the data, and then preparing the multiple sequence alignment, and then using that multiple sequence alignment we will be going for the phylogenetic tree analysis or preparation. So first this this drill. First you have to go for this alignment, then edit or build alignment, then you have to create a new alignment, then you select which sample you have. We have protein. Now data, open, and then you retrieve sequence from the file. So this is the file that we have prepared. So this will be new text document, open. Now as soon as you do that, you will see that this particular window which says the format of this particular file, that is text.txt format, that is not supported by Mega. So this I did intentionally so that I can show you how this problem can be solved. So first of all you shut down this Mega. Now you open this file. So basically what happens is Mega, or not just Mega, any other this kind of software, as a matter of fact, they only can recognize one particular format, that is called as FASTA format. So unless and until that file is in FASTA format, not just, so as you can see, all of the sequences that you will be seeing, so all of the sequences, they also are in this same format, that is in FASTA format. Okay, so but not just the sequences, the file also have to be stored in FASTA format. That is very important here. Alright, so let's move here. So this is the sequences. So what we'll be doing here is here we will be selecting file, and then from here we will be save as, same thing. So what we'll do is we will add an attachment, that is .fas, so that it becomes a FASTA file. Okay, save. So ideally there are one file, yes, so this file has been created. So this is the same data in FASTA format. So as because this FASTA format files are attached to this Mega software, so that's why these are showing this Mega logo. Anyway, so now let's repeat the same thing. Open Mega, file, sorry, align, edit, you know that drill. So we'll be doing exactly the same. So now we are going to be selecting this particular file, open this. So this is the whole data that I had downloaded. So this is very raw data, nothing has been done, that is not trimmed, not aligned. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to align the data. For that, actually we can go for any of these algorithms. We can go for ClustalW, we can go for muscle. So for now we are going for muscle, and we will muscle it. So now this is done. So okay, yeah, so as you can see, maximum of the, so as you can see here, maximum of the sequences, they are in alignment. The reason behind that is total number of sequences is very less. So that's why probably this is very the alignment level is very high. So we are not going to change anything here, or we are not going to trim anything. So what we can do is we can trim the data from here. From here we will the rest we will delete. So the reason why trimming these things are helpful is that well trimmed data generally that is that helps during the tree, when you prepare the tree. So if this is not equal or not same, then the tree sometimes becomes very biased. So it is always recommended that if possible, or if that is not hampering too much, then just clear the data, as I had already shown in the last video. So same way, but here we are not deleting anyone, as because all the sequences are almost in alignment. There are few gaps, like as you can see here, let me reduce this. So as you can see here, this particular sequence, they have got some gaps here, and again some gaps here. So we are, but if we delete this particular sequence, that will further increase the alignment score. But for now we are not going to do that, so we will probably just keep it like this, in this way itself, as it is, because the alignment, other than that, the alignment is very good, so I am not going to do anything. So how we are going to save it? Go to data, then go for export alignment. You can also go for save session, but it is save session is when suppose you are in middle of something, but you have some other important works. So what you can do is you can save the session, and then you go and finish off your work, and then you come back, and then you continue the rest of the things. So suppose you are going to trim, and you have a very huge amount of data. Suppose you have 100 sequences, and each of them are 800 nucleotide long or 800 amino acid long. So it will take some time for the alignment as well as the trimming to these things to be done. So for that, it is recommended that you save the session if you have or any other work or any other thing to do. Anyway, so for now what we are going to do is we are going to export the alignment. This is how we are going to save this. So there are three options here: mega format, FASTA format, Nexus, or POP format. So among this, as because we will be using mega, so we will save this in mega. Now I will say about the rest two, that is FASTA format and POP format or Nexus format. So FASTA format, this format can be utilized by any other software. Suppose you want to prepare the multiple sequence alignment using this software, and then you want to prepare the phylogenetic tree using any other software. So for that, this FASTA format is very helpful. Also, POP is another for software, and Nexus is another format. So you can keep in that format as well if you want to use POP or any such other softwares. So but for now, as we are continuing mega, so we will be saving in the mega format itself. So let's save in mega format. Same way we'll be saving in desktop. So the name will be MSA1, that is multiple sequence aligned file. Okay, save, and the number will be 1. Okay, so now we can close this one. So as you can see here, your MSA1 is present here. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do here is we are going to prepare the phylogenetic tree. Now I will show you the other things that we can do with it, but first let's start with this phylogenetic tree. So as you can see, there are multiple different type of phylogenetic tree which can be prepared using this particular software. So what are the different options you have? You have maximum likelihood tree, neighbor joining tree, minimum evaluation tree, UPGMA tree, maximum parsimony tree. So among these maximum likelihood, then maximum parsimony tree, these two are generally regarded as the most robust. But then again, for example, UPGMA, when people do let's say RAPD or any such kind of study, that is a genetic diversity study. So for that, from that data, generally the most favored tree which is prepared is UPGMA tree. So same way as I mentioned in the very first itself, during the initial period of the video, that which tree you are going to select, that will depend on what kind of study you are going to perform. It will be okay, so it will depend on what kind of study you are going to perform. Suppose you are going to perform a study on genetic diversity. So for that you are going to select, as I mentioned, UPGMA or any other tree. Now another, suppose you want to find out, or you want to go for the evolutionary study. For that again we have to go for another tree. So depending on your goal of your study, on the aim of your study, you have to select which particular tree you are going to be preparing, or you are going to make. Now I will try to make another video, a detailed video, in which I will be showing what is the basic differences between all of these trees, and for which purpose or which kind of study which tree should be made. So for all of these trees, the basic statistical analysis which is done, so that those are different. That's why, depending on that, you have to find out, depending on basically your goal or your objective of the study, you have to select which tree you are going to prepare. Anyway, so let's go back to this thing. Okay. All right. So now let's prepare the tree. So first let's go for this maximum likelihood tree. So we will be using this MSA1 data for this particular study. So let's open MSA1. So now it's open. So now in this window there are a few very important things which you have to keep in mind. First one is this phylogeny reconstruction, that is the analysis that you are going to perform. This is a statistical method, that is maximum likelihood. Now if you would have chosen any other tree method from here, then that particular method would have been shown here. Okay, next is phylogeny test. This is very important. That is so there is actually a way in which this particular tree is being prepared. So basically, if you follow that particular procedure, you can even do that manually. Obviously the size of the sequence has to be the small, and total number of sequence also has to be small. So given those things, you actually can yourself perform the whole thing. This is I won't call this is very easy, but this is doable. But when you obviously have a huge number of machines, sequences, and huge number of the length of the sequence is very high, then obviously you won't go for manual, and then you will be going for the statistical methods. So now when you prepare a tree, there is a way in which you can actually, so if you have seen any tree, so what you see in that is different branches will be there, and then the branch length. In some trees the branch length means the time of evolution. The length of the tree is basically, that has something to do with the period of evolution and all those things. So each of this, when this branch separates, and at what point it separates, so that has got a immense importance in this biology. So basically there is a way in which you can test it whether the tree that has been generated from the data that you have provided, whether that is stable or not, I would call. So what can be done is there is something called as here bootstrap method that is being that is the method that I was talking about. So what happens during this bootstrap is, so you have given some data and based on that some tree has been generated. So when I am asking for this phylogenetic test, for this test to be performed by this software, so what the software is going to do is the software is going to repeat creating the same tree using the same data that you have provided. So suppose I have given here the bootstrap value or number of bootstrap replication to be 1000. That means using the same data, the software is going to create the same tree 1000 times. What's the purpose of that? We want to find out, or we want to see if a tree is being generated from the data that I have given, it is going to prepare exactly the same tree even if they do it 1000 times. Okay, so basically what happens during this is if the data is good, if the multiple sequence alignment is good, out of 1000 maybe 950, 970, 990 time it is going to prepare exactly the same tree. Now again, this thing again will depend on the number of sequences and length of the sequences. If you have, like for my case, the example that I am showing here, I have 8 sequences. Each of them is approximately 500 base pair amino acid long. So for this, the bootstrap value which I expect is going to be very high. But again, when I am giving you a sequence length is, let's say, 800 to 900 amino acid or nucleotide, and I have 200 300 sequences, then not only it is going to take a whole lot of time, that's different, but the bootstrap value it won't be as good as that is going to be for my case, because here the probability becomes much more. When the probability, how the probability increases? Because the total number of sequences is more. When the total number of sequence and the length is more, then the probability of any change in the length of the branches, or exactly at which point the branch is separating, those things might change during those 1000 replications. So that's why the bootstrap value might be less. Now again, there is an threshold value for some applications, or some scientists, they prefer anything below 90% is not acceptable. For some scientists it is 70%. Now this actually is very much dependent on what kind of data you are using. If you are using very diverse data, then the bootstrap value won't be very high. But if you are using very specific, suppose you are using one particular species, and from that you have isolated one particular protein, and that species you have collected from let's say 60 different locations. So now basically the bootstrap value won't be differing too much. If that is well, hypothetically it shouldn't differ too much, or it shouldn't be too less. But if the sample size is too much, if the total number of species is too much, then there is a high probability. So suppose in another study, what you want to find out is, you want to find out the let's say the evolutionary study. So in that, the bootstrap method might be less. I'm not saying that it would be less, but there is a probability that it might be less, because the total number of data is very high, or species is very high, and also the length might be very high. So these are the few things which and according to what study you are doing, as I keep on mentioning, according to what study you are doing, and what is the goal of your experiment, depending on that it will be decided that what should be the ideal threshold value that you should take. But having said that, bootstrap method is very important. And if you, so now again, why this is very important? Now suppose the software is creating a tree. now as I mentioned, out of 1000 times, maybe 950 times you are getting exactly the same tree, but let's say 50 times you are getting something else. Okay, so the probability, if you just do it once, so the probability of it's very high that you are going to get the same, that is the 950 times that is going to be showing that one. The probability is maximum, but there is also a probability that you may end up with a tree which is not correct, which is any one among those 50. So to nugget that, or to so that you don't face that particular problem, that's why this bootstrap method is a mandatory. And if suppose you are doing this analysis like this, and you are planning to go and publish a paper, then maximum of the reputed journals, they won't accept any tree without the bootstrap value. This has become that much important for now. Anyway, so then this is the substitution level. What is the substitution? It is only the amino acid, so the only substitution type can be amino acid. Now this is the model and method for this, the Jones, Taylor and Thornton is a JTT model. So if you scroll down here, there are multiple different models that are present here. So if you want to change the models from here, you can change based on your own knowledge, but preferably if you have no idea about it, then it is always recommended, then don't change the whatever settings has been given here. Okay, and then this is the rates. So these things I am not changing, I am just keeping it the same way that it is, and I am going for compute. So generally this takes a whole lot of time, but as because the sequence length is very low, so I am expecting this won't take a very long period of time. Okay, so this is done. Okay, so this is done now. Alright, so this is done now. So this is basically the tree, how is it's going to look like. See here, this numbers, if you can see, these are the numbers, that is the bootstrap number that I was talking about. So 100 out of 100 means out of, so as you can see here, these two are together. This is basically these two are together. It's the same species actually. This is the most close to that, and then on this side, this is this basically is among all of these are closer to this one, and then these are the rest of the sequences. These two club together, these two club together in the same clade. All right, so the thing is that this, what these numbers denote is that suppose this 100. So why this number is given here is that, as you can see here, there in this particular part there is a divergence. So this is this one line was coming, it got diverted. This is one group and this is one group. Although there is only one sequence in this, but this has been regarded as a group. Same way here, at this point it is breaking down in two parts, one group, and in this part this is getting diverted. That there is a divergence here in this particular point. So the probability of this, suppose if I am creating 1000 trees with the same data, the probability of this particular divergence is at this particular point, not any further. At this particular point is 99. So here 99 means 99 out of 100, not 99 out of 1000. Same, 100 means 100 out of 100. 73 means 73 out of 100. Only. So this one only, this has a little bit less probability, I would say, or less bootstrap value, 73. So given the nature of the data, 73 is somewhat not acceptable. So what we can do is, you can basically, what you should do is you should go back and see the data at this particular point where these two are separating, or these two have separated, or at this point here from 100, this one and this one, and this one is 73. So you can go back why where is the difference between these two sequences, of why this value is so less here. So this is just an example. When you generally when you do this, you do this for two different families or two different species, which got these two are basically same species. So this is just for an example. So that's why I didn't uh, take that much attention here. So ideally, you shouldn't take the same sequence twice. Anyway, so if suppose you are getting two different families or two different species, and then you are getting a 73 and all these are 199. So ideally what you should do is you should go back and check your data, if probably if there is any problem in the data. Or now again, what you should ideally do is, suppose you see there is a problem in the sequence, that is in one sequence some portions are extra, in another sequence those portions are not there. Ideally, what you should do is you should go back to NCBI, from where, if suppose this data was collected from NCBI, or if you have your own data, then for that also you first see from where, what are the difference between the two locations from where the same sample was taken. If that is too far, then that gives a reason why this is different, but still this much difference shouldn't be there. And then you go for the data. Obviously if it's your data, then you have used the biological sample and then you have sent for the sequencing. So you recheck your material, you recheck the sequencing data that you got. And if you have downloaded this, then basically the same way you have to find out who had submitted these sequences. Then in that you will find out which particular journal it was published in. So you go back to that journal and then you find out from where they are this to say this species were collected. So this is the procedure how you should deal with it, because when you are getting a result like this, so you should probably go back to the data and see if there is any problem with the data. Alright, so this is one example. Now there are a few things which I would like to show you, what are the different things that you can do with these annotations that are present here. So you can show or hide the ancestral data, that is you can show all. This is the ancestral data. So this TA, so this is the ancestor of this T and all these A's. So this is the T which is the ancestor of these T's. This is the PTL which is the ancestor of this TL. So like this this particular thing is being done. Okay, so we don't want that. Alright, so this is one. Now we are not showing it, so I am showing this as none. Next is, here you can compute the condensed tree. Basically a cutoff value can be increased. So let's say your cutoff value is 80. Then as you can see that 73 which is present here, that is no longer present anymore, so that data has been cancelled. Okay, so like this this data can be utilized. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, let's go back to the original form. So there are multiple things here display only topology, so then it will look something like this. Now the branch length has nothing to do with it, only the topology. Then this one is a tree or branch style, where you can change it. Suppose you want to make it a radial one, so this is how this is going to look like. Okay. So let's go back to the traditional rectangular size, and then these are some other options here. So this is swap the subtree. You can place root on the branch. Suppose you want to show them that this is the root of the branch, like this, so the whole tree will be changed. So this is when you have enough knowledge about the data, about the origin of the evolution of the particular species. So only then you can do all those things, otherwise there is no point of doing this. Okay, so then we'll go back. Anyway, so so this is basically how you are flip the subtree. See, as you can see, you are flipping. this 73 is coming down and here 100 is going up. So you can basically, this is only for data presentations. The basic thing what you can do is we have already so we can show this one separately like this. You can show it. So these are basically how you are going to represent the data, but how the trees are going to get generated. So that is what we have covered so far. Now this is the bootstrap consistence tree. Now the thing between the original tree and the bootstrap consistent tree is that here the branch length or the position is not, it doesn't matter. What matters here is how the branch, how it deviated and what is the number of the bootstraps code. And this is the original tree, how this was prepared. Alright, so this is one kind of tree, and using this same method you can prepare other kind of trees as well. So you can just save it. Okay, so let's save it for further use. Save current session. We can save it in two things. Save current session, that let's save this as tree 1, and also we can save this as export current tree. So why this is important? Because there are multiple different softwares where you can actually which are very interactive softwares, not just softwares, many websites also allow you to interact with the data. So they, all of them, they utilize this particular format, that is Newick format. So here what you can do is you can export it in this particular format here. So if you save in this format, and if you go to any other software which uses this Newick pattern or format, then you can save your you can open your tree using that particular software. So I'll just save it in the desktop, Newick export, save, close it, and close it as well. Okay, so now this is one phylogenetic tree, and using the same method you can go for neighbor joining tree, minimum evaluation tree, UPGME tree, maximum parsimony tree, etc, etc. Alright, so now there are some other few things as well which I will be showing you, as I mentioned. So this is very important for many kind of studies, that is select, taxa and group. So suppose you have you are working on one particular, let's assume you are working on one particular let's say family. So within that family you have 3 species, and each of these 3 species you have collected from 4 different places. So what you can do is, suppose first you create a group, that is, let's say family 1. Okay, so within that family, how many species you have? 3 species, and from how many places or locations they were collected? 4. So the total is 12. So all those 12 should be, or you actually can save them within this particular group. All these different taxa, suppose here obviously I don't have that kind of data, but I'm just showing you. Suppose this 1, 2, 3, these 3 are from family 1. So how I have selected this? I have selected this using this control, and then I have clicked. So after I have selected all of these 3, I will click this arrow here, and so what will happen? These 3 sequences are now falling under this family 1 or group 1. Same way I can go for family 2. Now what is the purpose of this? I will come in a bit. So this is family 2, then this 1 and 2, this 2, let's assume these 2 species are from family 2 or second family, and now I have a third family. Obviously you have a name when you are working with biological sample, but as because we are working with, I am just trying to show you. So here I have not I am just writing family 1, 2 and 3. Anyway, so in this 3 I am going to add all of these 3. So now what I have done is I have classified, or I have actually made 3 groups with all the species under them. So now what work I can do from here, or what analysis I can do from here, if suppose uh, you all must have heard about this thing, intraspecific and interspecific diversity. So now what I have done is I have selected this into three families. So now two kinds of the data I can generate, or two kinds of analysis I can do. One is intraspecific diversity study or intraspecific study. For that, what you do mean by intra, that is within. So suppose these three sequences are within family 1. Now I want to see what is the level of diversity within family 1, right? So now if I go for the diversity study, how I'll go that, how we can do that, I'll just show you in a bit. So as that is what you mean by intraspecific diversity. Now suppose I want to study the interspecific diversity, that is the diversity between family 1, family 2 and family 3. So that will be your interspecific diversity, and when you are studying the or assessing the diversity within the different species present in group 1 or family 1, that will be your intraspecific diversity study. Now how you can do that? We'll go for this. Now compute diversity within subpopulation. If you do that, yes. So please remember, I have actually differentiated in or classified this into three groups. Okay, so here compute the within group mean distance. So I have differentiated into three groups. So now what I expect is it will be showing me, so this is family 1 within group, that is the intraspecific. This is the level of intraspecific divergence within this. So just you can assume this is a random data. So this is one data. Then the second thing I will be doing is compute between groups. So the within groups mean intraspecific, between group means interspecific. So I'll go for this. So this will give me, so this is the data for interspecific. So obviously group, when I am talking about interspecific, that is between group 1 and group 2. So here this is family 1, family 2. So this is the diversity between them. This is between 2 and 3, and this one is between 1 and 2, or 2 and 3, sorry. So this is how this is another kind of study which you can do using this data. Alright, so this is being done, and also you can compute the pairwise distance among all the sequences. This basically is being done by the machine or the software when you are performing the multiple sequence alignment. Then this thing is actually done, but you can actually do it for yourself. No matter how many sequences you have, this is how this is going to present. So this is between 1 and 2, this is 2 and 3, and so on. What you can do here, you can change the decimal. So here you can decrease the decimal. As you can see, we are decreasing the decimal. Okay, or you can increase the decibel. So depending on what kind of data you have. And this is how you can export them. You can export them as an Excel file, as CSV file, as mega file, as text file, and all those things. Okay, so this is another kind of study you can do. Now coming to this, that is basically your user tree. Analyze user tree by maximum likelihood. That is basically the same one that you have done, so that it will be analyzed. So let me see, it can be done or not. So I need to find a tree file. Okay, no. So this is the file. Save. Okay, so tree file, I need to show them. This is the tree file, the NeWik export that we had done. So that is the tree file. So if you show them this, then they will make this thing, that is basically nothing but they will check whether the whatever that we had created. Now what you can do here is that, so you have already prepared this using maximum likelihood, right? So now you can, what you can do is analyze user tree by parsimony. So how we can do that? So this is present. So this tree was prepared by maximum likelihood, but now you are checking this with parsimony, that how would it look like in parsimony. So this is how this is going to look like. So you can have a look and see if that is satisfying your whatever aim you had, then you can go with this, or you can keep with the maximum likelihood. This is another thing that can be done here. And next is this infer ancestral sequences. So when you have this maximum likelihood, so from that you can utilize, or you can find out the ancestral sequences. So this is this basically we had already shown. This is how the ancestral one looks like. Okay, so this is done. This is the ancestors. So this can be done only for this ML, maximum likelihood, and parsimony. Now this selection is not needed, and this one is also not needed. Another is this one, test molecular clock. So this is basically you have to select some out group as well, so we are not doing it. This is basically is done during when you have to perform this evolutionary study. So this is molecular evolutionary study, so this is important for that. So this is the different things which you can perform using this Mega software, and this is how the different kind of trees can be prepared. So I have already shown you this maximum likelihood. Using the same method and data, you can use the prepare the others like neighbor joining, minimum likelihood, minimum evolution, maximum parsimony, PGM, etc. So the process is exactly the same. Alright, so hopefully that was helpful for you. So if you like the work, then kindly please like, share and subscribe, and that is basically the motivation, so that we can prepare more videos like this, and which should be helpful for you. Thank you.